Lehigh Defense Controlled Fracturing. And what we have today is our 9mm+P and our 38 Special+P. So this ammunition is interesting. It is designed to fracture out those hollow point petals, and they are a hollow point. So they will expand out like a hollow point and then break off those petals and then allow a core to go deeper. So you kind of get the best of both worlds when it comes to getting immediate energy dump and also getting adequate penetration, at least by the literature. Our 9mm+P, that is a 115 grain bullet, solid copper bullet, is rated at 1100 feet per second through a 4-inch barrel. And I'm going to use a 4-inch barrel today. Decided to go average today with this test. So my 4-inch barrel Ruger Security 9. And then our 38 Special+P 125 grain, that is rated at 1050 feet per second through a 4¼ inch barrel. I'm actually using my 3-inch barrel Taurus 3-inch revolver versus 4-inch semi-auto. That gives about the same amount of barrel travel. The overall size of these guns, 3-inch revolver versus 4-inch auto, same size gun, basically same weight too. So we're gonna see what we get with this stuff. So I'm gonna go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm gonna do my 10% clear ballistic gel test. So I'm gonna go into plain 10% clear ballistics to see what the best possible potential those cartridges are, see if they do as they are advertised, and then move on to doing a real world simulation after doing a couple plain clear ballistic shots. So with our real world simulation, 4 layers of sweatshirt material on this first 3-inch piece that represents hitting a pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4-inch medium density fiber board that represents hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and another 1/4-inch MDF at the back to represent hitting back ribs. Clear ballistics is roughly a half representation of the density of flesh, so 3 inches here and 16 here is more like 1.5 inches and 8 inches in a real living target. So what we want to do is keep these within the back rib simulation. They can go about 3 inches past that in our real world simulation, and I wouldn't necessarily consider that over penetrating, but we'll get at least 12 inches in that gel as well. So we'll do our plain clear ballistic shot, then our real world simulation shot. Then I will shoot at the steel target. Now, this ammo actually came with a warning that you're not supposed to shoot it closer than 50 yards. So I will shoot from 50 yards just to abide by that warning and see how these do. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 9mm+P 115 grain controlled fracturing, rated at 1100 feet per second through a 4-inch barrel. So let's see how close I get to that through my 4-inch Ruger Security 9. $1,091, 1,082, 1,078, 1,086, 1,076. A little bit below rated velocity. Now it is 13 degrees right now and 2-degree wind chill. That could have something to do with it, but I don't think it does because we're so close to the target and these guns were kept warm. So 38 Special+P. This is rated at 1,050 through a 4¼ See how close I get to that through my 3-inch barrel here. And it's a 125 grain controlled fracturing. $947, 1,004, 1,013, 1,008, 985. So, considering it's only a 3-inch barrel, that's not bad. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, first up we'll do our plain clear ballistics shot. This gives us our best potential to see if a round performs as advertised. There's no fabric in the way that can clog hollow points, no rib simulation that can cause the bullets to perform kind of oddly. So let's see how we do with our 9mm here through a plain clear ballistics. Wow. Now let's hit that with our 38 Special+P. Let's go take a look. All right, so they performed as advertised, and one of those pedals from the 9mm actually left the block from the left side there. So these are looking like they are putting a ton of damage in there and busting out those pedals. And those pedals are going to, for both of them, they're going to about 5 inches, which, you know, that's going to be about 2.5 inches into a living target, which is deep enough to hit something vital, really, from a front on shot. From a side shot, no. But another surprising thing about these is other rounds that are kind of like this, they're not really the same technology, but they're like other similar rounds, the core typically doesn't go that far after this happens, and the amount of, you know, distance they go out in all directions isn't that good. But this, it goes out in a lot of distance outwardly and then still going deep, so it actually is pretty impressive. Ton of energy dump, and even after, you know, going into this first part here, there's a lot of tearing going on, like a wad cutter, because that's basically what's left over. Our 9mm, we went to 17 3/4, and I'm gonna call it 17.5 with our 38 Special+P. So that's kind of impressive in a way. That's not too bad. Now, my main concern here is people test these type of things without rib simulation, and rib simulation sometimes can just like change everything. So I'm gonna do this with our real world simulation. I think I'm actually gonna switch the gel blocks because I don't want fragments to come out and hit the camera. So I'll swap these around and we'll do our real world simulation. All right, our real world simulation, 4 layers of sweatshirt material followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics that represents hitting a pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that represents hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard at the back. So I flipped this over, so I'm going to take this shot, you know, over to the left with our real world simulation, which is a little bit different than what I normally do, just so I don't have that fragment hit my camera or anything like that. So we won't be able to see those initial impacts as well, but let's see what I can do here with our 9mm. All right. Now, 38 Special+P. Let's go take a look. All right, so it's doing something that I thought I was probably gonna see, and I didn't want to see it that way, but that's what's happening. Is that rib simulation definitely changed everything here. You can see most of these pedals didn't actually go through it. There's one there. So they didn't go through it, but the cores did. So what that tells you is these are going to be, that's going to be superficial damage basically. It's not going to go through ribs. The only thing that's going to go through it is actually going to be the core. So looking at it from that perspective, it's not quite as impressive as what I thought it was at first. Our 9mm, we went to about 16.5 inches. Our 38+P, we went to about 12.5 inches. So, you know, those cores and everything went to adequate depths, I'll give it that, but at this point, I'm really, you know, gonna kind of find it hard to say these did better than a wad cutter when it comes to hitting something actually vital. You know, when we're talking an expanded hollow point, what's nice about those is those will go in, they'll expand out right before they hit something vital, and they'll keep pulling that full size of that through ribs and bones. As were these, it's just that core going through. So just not as impressive as I thought these would be. So they're very cool when you hit the gel, but you hit something rib-like, and yeah, it's not super impressive. Now, they would inflict a ton of pain, I'll give it that, and that might equate to higher stopping power but as far as, you know, creating bigger than its initial starting diameter while hitting something vital, I don't think that's going to happen. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them, and then I'm going to shoot our steel target and see what kind of practical, well, at least accuracy I can get at 50 yards with these. So let's do that. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel. Here's all our recovered petals. Looks like I recovered about 5 of them. Interesting little petals there. They do break off. Now, I can't tell which is which here. I'm guessing that's the 9mm and that's the 38, because the 38 was a heavier bullet. And, you know, honestly, when you look at this, it does break off into a straight, flat-faced wad cutter type bullet here. So initially I thought when I first saw this, well, that's not so good, but actually I'm gaining a little bit of respect for it, seeing them out of the gel, because they are straight up like a wad cutter now. And we all know that wad cutters do go in straighter lines, and they do cause a lot more damage than a full metal jacket or even a non-expanding hollow point. So not bad, I mean, when we consider that. It's our 9mm. So now when we look at the ones going through our real world simulation, 38, 9mm here, and all the petals I recovered were on the shelf, like they hit the rib simulation and fell down. I don't think a single one of these made it into the main gel block. So, you know, they hit that, all fell down, they're just laying there. So again, here's our 38. And here's our 9mm. So looking at this, you know, what I'm seeing is it's kind of like an improved wad cutter in a way. You know, you're still going to get all the effects of a wad cutter, but you're also going to cause some pain in addition to that. So looking at that overall, not terrible. It's not going to be as effective as a properly expanding and penetrating hollow point, but it's interesting. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 50 yards from the target. So this is the closest that they say in the literature that they sent with the ammo in the box, that you're not supposed to get closer than 50 yards when you're shooting steel with these type of bullets. So let's see if I can get here from 50 yards with my 4-inch Ruger Security 9. All right, wasn't really looking at the target until I'm done shooting there, but not too bad overall, really. Anytime any wild things were happening there with, you know, missing, you know, I felt myself jerk that trigger a few times there, and I don't shoot this pistol very often, so that's not bad considering all that. Now our 38 Special. Now it is a known problem. This particular gun shoots to the left significantly for me. So we'll see if it works today. 38 Special+P. All right, it's kind of hard to tell where they're hitting. I'm aiming just a hair to the right, just a hair. All right, not bad considering this is kind of a janky revolver that Taurus refuses to fix. So I've sent it in like 3 times and they just keep sending it back, not shooting quite right. But yeah, not bad accuracy overall. So we look at the quality of the ammo, and this is not cheap ammo. The quality is good. I'll give it that. It's very good quality. You know, the velocity seemed about right. You know, the extreme spreads weren't too bad. It seems pretty accurate. Now, when I was shooting over the chronograph, I wasn't placing very accurately because it is very cold. I haven't shot in a little bit, a few days, and I haven't shot these particular guns in a long time. So I'm just kind of getting used to them again with these gloves on and everything. But overall, the accuracy seems good because I'm seeing consistency at 50 yards, you know, once I've warmed up for the day shooting, you know, that's pretty good overall. So the quality's there, everything's there, but the failure I'm seeing here is in the actual, you know, claims of that design. And it's a cool design and all of that. It's just that when you incorporate, you know, ribs in the way there, or something that simulates ribs, you know, I've seen this a lot of times with a lot of ammo. It just doesn't want to go through that. And that's something you got to be aware of, you know, because human beings are not made out of jelly alone. And that's why I started incorporating ribs into my testing. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, well, in ballistics gel, it's already calculated in. That's calculated in that, you know, ribs will take away this much penetration and all of that. And that is true. But what is not calculated in is when you go through something fleshy and then suddenly hit something very solid, that significantly changes what that bullet looks like, the size of that bullet. If it's a hollow point, the size of the expansion. So that's why I started incorporating those rib simulations in there to try to match that performance with some of the stuff I've seen, like bullets pulled from autopsies and whatnot. And this rib simulation more closely matches that than just going into plain gel. So I trust it as a rib simulation. And, you know, it's important to see what that'll do when it goes through something fleshy, hits something hard, and then keeps going. Hollow points tend to do pretty well through that still, but this is giving me some trouble. So interesting overall, I'll say that. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.